President Donald Trump has unveiled a bold new plan, one that could reshape the future of military support for Ukraine. Under this proposal, the United States would provide Ukraine with advanced Patriot air defense systems, a move that could significantly bolster Ukraine's ability to defend itself against aerial attacks. But there's a major catch. The U.S. will only send these powerful weapons if Europe agrees to pay the entire cost. Trump's message to European leaders is clear. If you want American technology, you'll have to foot the bill. This marks a dramatic shift in U.S. military aid policy, putting the financial responsibility squarely on America's European allies. It's a move that perfectly aligns with Trump's long-standing America First approach, which has often called for allies to contribute more to their own defense. "We are not paying anything for it, but we will send them," Trump declared, making it clear that American taxpayers will not be asked to cover the cost of this aid. For many in the U.S., this stance is likely to be popular, as it promises to protect domestic interests while still supporting Ukraine. The announcement comes after a recent pause in U.S. military aid, during which the Pentagon took time to reassess its own stockpiles and ensure that American defense needs would not be compromised by further shipments abroad. Now, the U.S. is offering weapons, but only as part of a transactional deal. Europe pays, Ukraine receives. This approach signals a new era of military cooperation, where financial commitments are just as important as strategic ones. European leaders are now faced with a difficult decision, whether to invest billions of euros in Ukraine's defense or risk leaving the country vulnerable to further attacks. The pressure is on for the EU to step up and take a leading role in supporting Ukraine. Trump hinted at a very big deal, potentially a large number of Patriot systems that could transform Ukraine's air defenses and change the balance on the battlefield. Such a delivery would be a game-changer for Ukraine's military. For Ukraine, desperate for more protection against relentless missile and drone attacks, this proposal offers a glimmer of hope. The promise of advanced air defense could mean greater safety for civilians and critical infrastructure. But the fate of Trump's Patriot missile plan now rests in the hands of the European Union. Will Europe be willing and able to finance this multi-billion-dollar package? The world is watching as the EU debates its next move, and Ukraine waits for a lifeline. The foundation for this new policy was set during a pivotal White House meeting between Trump and NATO's new Secretary General, Mark Rutte. The result? U.S. weapons will go to NATO, not directly to Ukraine, and only after European members pay in full. NATO then delivers the systems to Ukraine, ensuring the U.S. defense industry is compensated and allies share the cost. This marks a shift from ad hoc, bilateral aid to a more predictable, alliance-driven pipeline. The pressure is now on Europe to step up financially, a long-standing U.S. demand. Rutte's leadership will be key in holding European nations to their commitments. The message is clear. America will help, but on its own terms. Burden sharing and accountability are now at the heart of transatlantic security. The success of this model depends on NATO unity and Europe's willingness to pay. Just a week before Trump's announcement, the Pentagon made a difficult decision. It halted air defense shipments to Ukraine, a move that sent shockwaves through both Washington and Kiev. The reason was clear. Concerns were mounting about the dangerously low levels of U.S. air defense stockpiles, especially as global threats continued to rise. Military officials worried that continued support for Ukraine could leave the United States vulnerable, with warehouses showing signs of depletion and inventories running thin. The risk wasn't just theoretical, it was a real pressing challenge for America's national security planners. The Patriot missile system, in particular, has become America's most stressed and in-demand air defense asset. These advanced systems are deployed across the globe, from the Middle East to the Pacific, protecting U.S. forces and allies from evolving threats. Sending additional Patriot batteries to Ukraine means pulling them from other critical locations or dipping into America's own strategic reserves, an option that carries significant risk. Trump's new policy, Europe pays, U.S. delivers, offers a creative solution to this dilemma. By shifting the financial burden to European allies, the U.S. can continue to supply Ukraine without draining its own resources. The influx of European funds could supercharge American defense manufacturing, allowing factories to ramp up production and replenish U.S. stockpiles at a much faster pace than before. This approach helps the U.S. maintain its reputation as the arsenal of democracy, ensuring that it can support allies abroad while never compromising its own security at home. It also sends a powerful message to both allies and adversaries. U.S. support for Ukraine is not only robust but sustainable for the long haul, thanks to shared responsibility. By removing the direct cost to American taxpayers and addressing the critical issue of stockpile depletion, the administration sidesteps some of the most significant domestic political obstacles that have plagued previous aid packages. It's a pragmatic fix. Ukraine gets the advanced weapons it desperately needs, while the U.S. keeps its technological and strategic edge intact. Ultimately, this strategy marks a significant evolution in how America manages the risks, costs, and responsibilities of supporting Ukraine, setting a new precedent for future conflicts and alliances. The plan's success now hinges on the European Union. The EU, long vocal about supporting Ukraine, must now back its words with billions in funding. A single Patriot battery costs over $1 billion. Trump's proposed deal could run into the tens of billions. The EU must coordinate an unprecedented financial effort among its 27 members, a daunting political challenge. This comes as US-EU relations are already strained by trade disputes and tariff threats. Some Europeans see the demand as another example of Trump's transactional style, but the urgency of Ukraine's defense may override these concerns. The EU faces a defining choice: fund the Patriots and show unity, or risk division and embolden Russia. The coming weeks will reveal if Europe is ready to pay the price for its own security. Ukraine greeted the Patriot news with a mix of relief, gratitude, and a healthy dose of caution. For months, Ukrainian officials have pleaded for more advanced air defense systems to protect their cities and infrastructure from relentless missile and drone attacks. The announcement of additional Patriot systems was met with applause in Kiev, but also with a flurry of questions and careful optimism. President Zelensky publicly thanked former President Trump for the promise, but behind the scenes, Ukrainian leaders are seeking clarity. Does 17 Patriots refer to full batteries, individual launchers, or simply a shipment of missiles? The distinction is crucial, as the effectiveness of Ukraine's air defense depends on the scale and type of support. Currently, Ukraine operates 6 Patriot batteries, which have proven vital in intercepting Russian missiles. However, military officials insist that at least 10 more batteries are needed to provide comprehensive coverage across the country, especially as attacks intensify in the east and south. To address these concerns and clarify the details, the White House dispatched Special Envoy Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg to Kiev for urgent high-level talks. His arrival underscored the seriousness of the moment and the need for swift coordination. Kellogg's mission is clear: assess Ukraine's immediate and long-term defense needs, and work with both governments to turn political promises into a concrete, actionable delivery plan that can be implemented without delay. The Patriots are just one part of a broader Ukrainian push for more advanced Western weaponry. Kiev is also lobbying for Tomahawk and ATACMS missiles, which could significantly extend its ability to strike back at Russian positions and defend its territory. While no agreement has been reached yet on the delivery of long-range missiles, negotiations are ongoing. Both sides recognize the urgency, but technical, political, and logistical hurdles remain. For Ukraine, these developments represent more than just military aid. They could mark a pivotal turning point in the country's fight for survival and sovereignty, offering hope in a time of uncertainty. Ultimately, the next steps will depend on how quickly the details are hammered out, how soon the promised systems arrive, and whether they are enough to shift the balance on the battlefield in Ukraine's favor. Russia's response was predictably defiant, with officials dismissing the Patriot deal as hot air. But Trump's rhetoric toward Putin has hardened. He talks sweetly and then bombs everyone at night. I don't like it. Trump also issued a stark warning. If there's no ceasefire in 50 days, the U.S. will impose secondary tariffs up to 100%, not just on Russia, but on any country doing business with Moscow. This would massively escalate economic pressure, forcing nations to choose between the U.S. and Russia. The combination of military aid and economic threats raises the stakes for the Kremlin and its partners. The 50-day deadline puts Moscow on notice change course or face severe consequences. The Pentagon has endorsed the new policy, calling resumed arms shipments vital for Ukraine's survival and a step toward peace. The Pentagon's support follows internal debate over depleted U.S. stockpiles and global demand for Patriots. The new arrangement, Europe pays, U.S. delivers, lets the Pentagon backfill its own arsenals with European funds. This financial mechanism allows the U.S. to help Ukraine without sacrificing its own readiness. The funds will boost production of Patriots and interceptors, strengthening both Ukraine and U.S. inventories. Military leaders see this as a sustainable way to prevent a Russian victory while maintaining American strength. It's a calculated risk, but one the Pentagon is willing to take under the new financial framework. The policy balances urgent support for Ukraine with the long-term health of the U.S. military. It's a pragmatic compromise in a high-stakes conflict. The Patriot missile system is the U.S. Army's premier air and missile defense weapon, mobile, long-range, and able to counter everything from drones to ballistic missiles. For Ukraine, Patriots are a lifeline, credited with shooting down advanced Russian missiles and protecting cities like Kiev. Each battery includes radar, command stations, and multiple launchers, defending large areas from saturation attacks. But effectiveness comes at a steep price, over $1 billion per battery, and millions per interceptor missile. Ukraine's current Patriots have already made a difference, but more are urgently needed to shield critical infrastructure. The high cost and limited supply make the new EU funding arrangement crucial. For Ukraine, every Patriot delivered is a chance to save lives and resist invasion. Trump's Patriot plan, contingent on European funding, opens a new chapter in the war. If the EU acts quickly, Ukraine could soon receive a major boost to its air defenses, potentially shifting the balance. The move also puts pressure on Russia, combining military aid with the threat of crippling tariffs. For Europe, it's a test of unity and willingness to shoulder more responsibility for its own security. For NATO, it's a chance to build a more balanced partnership with the U.S. The coming months will reveal if this bold gamble leads to peace or deeper conflict. The fate of Ukraine and European stability hangs in the balance.